no roof. Car ain't got no roof, yeah. We be in the city. What's up, Titan? What's up? Here we go, here we go. All right, cut it. Hey, you know, it take us back, man. It take me back to like 96. I think I'm at the Malibu down in Fountain Square or something, you know what I'm saying? Woo, all the real Nashvillians remember that, don't you? Yeah, the Oasis, all them little spots like that. Yeah, man. Hey, man, we're going to have a really, really good time tonight. Really good time. We appreciate all the love. All the love. Like, this is the third year, Cosell? Third year, man, and it's getting bigger and bigger. We first started with 2 little bitty chairs up here. You know, so the money has increased. Paul Mason, we appreciate it, baby. We started to get a little bit more money. Got big TV screens. At first, everybody was squinting their eyes trying to see what we were doing. You ain't got to do that no more. We got a good time happening. We want to give a shout out also to Hattie Bees. Hattie Bees is in the building. And don't blame me. Don't get mad at me. I forgot the name. Our other sponsor. Becky. Where's Becky? Wholesale Supply. Come on. You know what I was looking for. You know, the man was right. There it is. Wholesale Supply. I'm going to get it together, y'all. I promise you. I can guarantee you. This 3HL. This is how we operate. You know that. Everybody listen. You know, it just kind of goes off the rack a little bit. But we also have Brian Callahan that'll be in the building. That's right. So we had the opportunity to get Rand Carthon up here, right? Yeah, he's not coming back. I don't know if y'all got word in. That's my man. So I hope this goes right. I hope Cosell is not a bad omen for every coach he talks to. He get the guy gone, you know. Nah, honestly though, man, listen. The draft just took place. It's unfortunate and fortunate at the same time that you can get the #1 overall pick. So a lot of people wonder and start to think, man, what's going on, man? Should we be hopeful? Should we be antsy about it? Should we wait? How? With the #1 pick overall out of all the draft picks, that's the expectation that comes with it. That's a part of it, right? Yeah, so we're supposed to be excited about it. We're supposed to feel like, yeah, we got a chance to do something now. That's going to be on Coach Callahan to get him out there and do something. But us as fans, that gives us a little bit more excitement. Y'all can come to the VIP Titans tailgate experience. A little free promo right there. Yeah, there you go. See, you know about it. Yeah, come over there, have a good time, but it's going to be growth. It's going to be ups and downs. We done been through the dark times. So at least we got a ladder in the hole where we can start stepping on the ladder and coming out. We ain't just got to sit there, you know. So that's a good thing. The other part is Buck Reising. And that was about right. And that was about right. That's the applause that my guy's supposed to get, man. But honestly, though, man, he's raw, unfiltered, asks the questions that you want to know. Every brand on the station has a different responsibility. We know what Bucks is, right? To poke the bell. It's understood. But don't y'all be too hard on him tonight. His mom, stepdad is in the building. Can y'all give them a round of applause? Grandma made it last year. Mom and stepdad made it this year. So it's still continuing to grow. And the sellout, y'all got to give yourself a hand. Titans fans, 104 to 5 Zone listeners, y'all give yourself a round of applause. I like how we dressed down, too. I remember the first time I came up here, I had some slacks on. You know what I mean? I brought sexy back. Stomach was a little flat. You see the Hitchcock done came back a little bit. I mean, I'm eating good. D. Buford, I'm eating good, baby. You know what I'm saying? So understand that State Farm is in the building, too. I just want to say that, man. Chunky Junkie, y'all remember when they ran off with my car? Y'all remember that story from earlier in the year? Yeah, man, I called my man about 4:30 in the morning. He answered, too. You feel me? That's the love. That's the family experience. So we're going to get this thing to rocking. First and foremost, are y'all ready to have a good time? That's my guy. Y'all see him everywhere, boy. That's a bad boy right there. Hey, listen, we're going to get it rocking. Now, bring it to the stage. The one and only when it comes to breaking down film, it's not many that's better. It's a lot more that's trying, but it's not many that's even testing them. And that's why we got them. You know, it make more sense, don't it? Greg Cosell, NFL Films. Come on up, Greg. Now, Greg asked me, Slay, you got a couple jokes ready for him? You want to warm the people up? I said, listen, Greg, I'm going to get 2-3 shots. I'm going to put some change of lemonade to make this a different color, to make people think I ain't really drinking, but I am. So by the time I get up there, I'll be good and fried and ready. You know what I'm saying? All right. Oh, and the next one. The man that brought us here. Now, when he walk up here, man, I want y'all to be nice to him. Robert Walsh. Where's my dog, Bert? Bert, y'all give Bert some love. I got Smiley in the building, Zelf in the building. Any more producers I may miss? Well, we're a little short-handed. Lucas is gone, so don't y'all even worry about that. But this guy right here, man, we're going to give him some love, and you ain't got to continue to give him love, but just look, when he first get on stage, give him love, then everybody be cool. Everybody got that? Buck Reising for putting this together. Let's go, Buck. Look at him, y'all. Check him out. Playboy at his finest, boy. Y'all didn't know it was coming. I'm out of here, baby.
All right, how we living? It's good to see you guys. Y'all excited? You got more juice than that. You just drafted a quarterback #1 overall. Are you excited? Okay. Thanks for coming out. Greg, we got another great crowd here for us tonight.
Great crowd.
Really excited. And it's, I mean, it's a lot different than the tone that we took this time last year. We didn't know what we were in store for, yeah? Mark safe? Everybody in the crowd mark safe? Things are going to get better? You drafted a quarterback? Brian Callahan's here? Okay, everybody's excited. We're going to talk some shop today.
We are. We're going to talk a little ball.
You have put together your evaluations of all of these players. You've got 9 new Titans. It's not just Cam Ward, and the quarterback matters, as you well know.
A little bit.
But not the most, not a single player in the NFL is capable of overtaking a game that way, Greg. We just saw that in the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. One player cannot do that.
Sometimes they can.
Sometimes they can.
Sometimes they can.
And the Titans are hoping that this guy they just took #1 overall is going to be able to get him there. But they've added 8 other players, a bunch of skill position players.
Yep.
Going to try and get right on offense. I guess, Greg, for the crowd, when you saw the draft class that they put together and you had time to go through the tape and things like that, what kind of message does this draft class send about who this team wants to be?
Well, I think you also have to look at what they did in free agency as part of that. Because now the hope with what they did in free agency is they've got a professional offensive line, which I think we all know has been a little bit of a problem.
How's that feeling?
Yeah.
You've never seen so many people excited about right tackle play.
So I think
come on, look at them. They're glowing. This guy needs a cigarette.
So I think you start there because then I think that dictates what they can do in the draft. And then you start looking at what they did. And obviously when I'm watching these players, and by the way, if people have seen my sheets, I do that for about 230 guys who will be in the draft. So it's not just the Titans. I'm watching a lot of players in great detail. So I don't know who teams are going to draft when I do this. So, you know, I think the fact that the wide receiver position was addressed is a positive. Now, again, I also want people to understand one thing. And Coach Callahan, he may not say it this way, but I think it's fair, is when you start getting like 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, there's normally reasons why guys are drafted there. So you can't just assume that those guys are going to be stars. If they do make it and they contribute, you're thrilled. But, you know, they did address the wide receiver position with 2 guys that are really interesting players. We'll talk about them in detail. And we'll obviously talk about all these guys in detail. But I really love the pick of Kevin Winston. Because Kevin Winston, if he was not injured, probably, I think, and again, I'm not one who makes lists, as people who listen to me probably know. I don't make lists and I don't do mock drafts. But I think Kevin Winston, the consensus was that if he was not hurt, was certainly an early 2nd round pick at worst. And they got him, I believe, 3rd round, right?
Yeah,
third round.
They're second of the 3rd round picks. They made a trade because they weren't in the 3rd round because of the L'Jarius Sneed trade.
Right. So I mean, again, we don't know how all that's going to play out. They obviously signed Xavier Woods, who's a professional safety, and my guess is he'd be the starting safety early on with Hooker. But Winston is a really gifted guy, and that's another pick that, again, all I can say, You know, it's funny, and I watch the draft as I'm sure a lot of people do, and I'm just going to say this because this is one of my pet peeves. You know, when I hear announcers say, well, they reached, you know, that always bothers me for this reason. It bothers me because there's two parts to that bother me. Number one, the assumption when you say that you know more than the 30 people on a team that do this for a living, you know, because that's what you're saying when you say they reached. It's okay to say, hey, a team had a guy rated more highly than I did, but when you say they reached, you're basically saying, well, they're not really smart enough. I'm smarter than they are. I know more about, you know, where a guy should be drafted.
Well, you heard Mel.
Yeah, I did.
We love Mel Kiper.
Yeah, I did. And I know Mel, and, you know.
Got a little carried away.
Yeah, I'm sure ESPN probably thought that was great television, but, you know, I struggle with that. And the other thing is when I hear that a team reached, there's an assumption that, oh, well, they could have gotten him 20 picks later or in the next round. You have no idea about that. Zero idea about that. So the goal to me, and because I know scouts and I know people in the league, and I've been doing this a long time, is if you want a player, I mean, obviously you don't draft a player 5th if you have him rated 50th on your board. We understand all that. But if there's a player that you have essentially rated relatively close to where you're picking, and you want that player, you got to get him. You got to take him, because you don't know what's going to happen after. It's the same in free agency when people immediately say, my guess is they said this about Dan Moore. Oh, well, they paid too much. Well, you either get him or you don't get him. If you don't pay that, you don't get him. And then everybody in the audience is going to say, oh, man, their O-line stinks. You know, you have to either get the guy or
it was me. I said they paid.
Right. Yeah,
I did that.
I didn't know that. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get through it together.
Yeah. We'll work together.
You guys bring questions? Questions for Greg and questions for Coach Callahan, because we are going to raise some money for a good cause. Stephen Young from Home Street Home couldn't be here tonight, but they do incredible work here in Middle Tennessee, helping the unhoused community, trying to rehabilitate them, walking them through all the different steps that it takes to get back to having a normal, functioning, healthy life and making sure that they have the supplies that they need. There's QR codes at your guys' table. So what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize questions from people who donate to Home Street Home tonight. I'm going to have those receipts. We'll make sure that we get to as many questions as we can. We're not going to be able to get to everybody. I can't promise that you're going to get your question asked, but let's see if we can't raise some money tonight.
We'll do our best.
Oh, well, we got time.
Yeah, we got time.
We just can't take up too much of Coach Callahan's time.
Yeah, but I'll stay for as long as people want to ask questions.
You guys ready to hear from the head coach? Absolutely. Brian Callahan's in the house tonight. You ready to hear from the head coach? Okay, we're gonna break down these new players, Greg. We got tape. I know Brian's excited to kind of get into some of your notes because I gave him your evaluations, and I told him, you know, don't take it easy on Greg.
Well, you know,
like if there's some stuff that you disagree with in there, maybe redline it.
I want to hear those. I want to hear it. You know.
You have been on Cam Ward as being worthy of the #1 overall pick.
I was.
As early as anybody that I have heard talk about the quarterback class that was upcoming this year. Well, not even to get into, you know, Shador and the gap between the two of them, or Shuck or Gabriel or any of these other players. But you've been on Cam Ward basically since
mid-February.
Yeah,
because
before the combine.
Yeah, the way I do it is because I go to the scouting combine every year, and there's kind of a radio row at the scouting combine. Not quite as big as the Super Bowl, but there's a kind of a radio row with a bunch of radio stations.
Where they keep people like me.
Right. And, you know, I know that when I go to the combine, the position I get asked about, of course, is quarterback. That's what everybody wants to talk about. So I try to watch all the quarterbacks in detail before I go to the combine. And also, the other thing I do is in the summer, and I'm probably actually going to start that this Monday, is I start watching guys who are going to be in next year's draft. You know, because I basically watch tape every day. So last year, among many other players, I watched Cam Ward 7 games when he was at Washington State. And then, of course, this year, I think I watched 9 games from his time at the University of Miami. So I'd seen a lot of Cam Ward. And I felt when I finished watching Cam Ward, and at that point, it was about mid-February, because the combine was at the end of February. And at that time, he wasn't really being talked about very much, as, you know, as that kind of guy.
As that guy.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not really understanding why he's not being talked about as that guy. And again, I don't know who's going to draft him. It's mid-February, you know. And just to give you an example, like I finished watching Bo Nix last year in mid-February, and in my notes, and we had talked about this, I said in my notes that I thought he'd be a perfect quarterback for a Sean Payton offense. I had no idea Sean Payton was going to draft him. You know, it was mid-February. So I'm finishing Ward, and I'm thinking, you know, this guy's really kind of gifted. And, you know, I think he's worthy of that high a pick. And again, I knew the Titans at that point had the number 1 pick, but I wasn't necessarily saying to myself, well, the Titans should take him, because I don't really think of it that way. I just evaluate the players. But you're right. I was on Cam Ward as that kind of guy, literally mid-February on, and I was done at that point. I don't get caught up. I don't change my point of view based on other noise, because I watched, like I said, 16, 17 games over 2 years. I'm done with Cam Ward. And I actually knew someone who worked at Washington State when he was there, and I was told that he's a great kid, that he has a lot of dog in him, he's highly accountable, that there's no negatives about Cam Ward as a person. So which just now, when I heard that made me feel even better, but I thought the tape spoke for itself.
For you, when you were going through the tape, because a lot of times you'll have moments where maybe a different player stands out to you,
right.
Or maybe you have a revelation, or maybe you start to compare a player that you're watching to a player that you've seen before. For Cam Ward, when was that? Is there a specific tape that stood out? I know we've got a lot of plays of Cam
right.
Ward to talk about and break down with you and Brian tonight.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I try to, there's a lot of things that go into an evaluation of every position, but certainly a quarterback being the most visible position. So it's funny because when I watched him last summer, and for people who would see my notes, if you took a look at them, there are negatives. I mean, it's not as if, first of all, no player comes into the NFL as a finished product, and there's no coach who would tell you that a player comes in with no warts at all. So you have to understand that, number one. So yeah, there are things I always feel like, okay, he's got to get better at this, or this thing has to be sort of cultivated a little bit. This has to be worked on. But when I watched Cam Ward, I thought a couple of things. And again, this is people who've taught me the position, people smarter than I am who've taught me the position. I mean, the guy who I was very fortunate, probably most grateful in my career, that taught me the quarterback position, and I got to know him well, was Bill Walsh. So when I watch tape, I think Bill Walsh is in my head. Bill Walsh is, and for people who don't know, Bill Walsh was the head coach of the 49ers in the 1980s with Joe Montana. He's the coach that drafted Joe Montana.
You taking notes, Landon? Did you bring your notebook? Joe Walsh?
And he's considered one of the best quarterback coaches ever to be in pro football. So I got to know him well, fortunately, and he kind of really taught me the position and all the detail and nuance and subtlety that's involved in playing the position. So when I watch a quarterback, I think in terms of it that way. I don't think in terms of, he can make plays. Now, clearly, the game has evolved to where your quarterback has to be able to, quote unquote, make plays. But it has to start with the fundamentals of the position, the nuance, the detail. And one of the things that I was taught by Phil Simms, who I know as well very well, is in the NFL, there's going to be a lot of throws where there's bodies around you, more so than in college football. So one of the things, and I could talk about this for 2 hours, we'll move on, I'll try to,
We got 3.
Quick. Yeah, that's true, is
my mom said, "How long is this show?"
How long do I have to hear you talk? Is that what she said?
Oh, she's done that her entire life.
Right,
she's cut
right,
out for it.
right.
Built different over there.
Right.
Thanks for being here.
Can you make throws just like sitting on your back foot with people around you? Because not every throw is going to be in a comfortable pocket where there's nobody around you, where it's nice and clean. You see more of that in college because there's a lot more quick game throws. The wide side of the field is much wider than in the NFL. You can always get a completion by throwing to the wide side of the field, which is why a lot of guys in college have high completion percentages, because you can always throw a screen to the wide side of the field. But the point is, he could sit on his back foot in the pocket and drive the football. And in the NFL, to me, you've got to be able to make drive throws. You've got to be able to throw in windows between the numbers. That, to me, is a really important part of playing quarterback in the NFL, because you get these zone coverages, and those are arm-strength throws. Arm-strength throws aren't posts or fades. Those are not arm-strength throws. Arm-strength throws are when you have to drive the ball 22 yards between the numbers, between people. And those are hard throws. And, Cam Ward can make those throws. And he does have that ability to make plays outside of structure. And we'll see a few of those tonight that are really special plays. But, I just felt watching him that I thought this guy has every trait you would want for an NFL quarterback, the way the game has evolved. He can play from the pocket, and he can make plays outside of structure. Are there some details he's got to work on? Sure, but everybody does. And that's where NFL coaching comes into play. But I just really felt that Cam Ward had what it took, just watching his tape. That's all I'm going on, watching his tape, that he could be a big-time NFL quarterback.
Now, you guys know I don't like to be a buzzkill.
Well, what are you going to say now?
But before we can move forward and see how this football team improves, we have to talk about what happened.
We do?
In 2024, just a little.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit. No? You don't want to talk about it all? Are you sure? Because I don't. Fully aware. Yeah. Fully aware for those of you listening at home is what the audience said. Now, the one thing that I do want to make sure that we touch on, though, Greg, is because this is not a roster that was completely bereft of talent prior to this year's draft. Like, this is not a new team. There are pieces and parts here that they're going to have to continue to build with as they try and support Cam Ward as the #1 overall pick and all the other rookies that they've brought in, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, Lloyd Cushenberry when he returns from injury. We understand that turnovers are the thing that doomed this team the most in 2024, but you would acknowledge that there are pieces on this football team prior to Cam Ward's arrival that can help him kind of reach what their vision for him is.
Oh, yeah, and I think, look, not to make it about...
not so bad.
Not to make it about one unit, but I think everything starts, and we saw it with a team like the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and how they have the best offensive line in the league, okay? Now, obviously, the Titans, even with their upgrades, are not going to have the best offensive line in the league, but it's really hard to play if your O-line is just not good at all. It's just really hard to play. And that's where it all starts. So they addressed it. They addressed it in free agency with more left tackle. They'll move Latham to right tackle. Zeitler is a great pickup. He's been in the league a long time. He's just a solid veteran. You mentioned Cushenberry. Hopefully he's back at full strength.
He said by training camp, I appreciate the optimism, but, guy that size coming off an occasion. Make sure that you temper expectations. And they've added a lot of depth pieces in free agency and will continue to churn the bottom.
Right, and they obviously hope Skoronski continues to just get incrementally better and be a quality left guard. So you have to hope, and again, we're talking on, May 2nd, so we don't have the answers, but they addressed it with solid players. So you hope it all starts there. Because it's just and plus, you want to be in a position, talking about the rest of the roster, you don't want to be in a position where you have to ask Cam Ward to every week go out and score 30, or be in a position where you have to call pass plays 45 times in a game. You don't want to be in that position with a rookie quarterback. So we'll see how it plays out, but it really starts with what they did with the O-line. That's really the critical piece. And I think defensively, they've done some things that are interesting, and we'll see how it plays out.
Y'all ready to break down some of these new players you've added? Yeah. All right, we've got plays that Greg and Coach Callahan have picked out. We're going to take some of your questions. We are not here tonight without the wonderful people at the Analog and the Hutton Hotel hosting us, and Greg Burns back there making it all happen. The bartenders back in the back, make sure you take care of them. We got a podcast, a live podcast with a full bar. Who's taking better care of you than us? Come on.
I think we should do that during the week.
I mean, Slay started 2 days ago. I don't know. By the way, speaking of the sponsors, Two Rivers Ford, Hattie B's Hot Chicken, Wholesale Supply Group, Milagro Tequila, and Monkey Shoulder Scotch Whiskey are who made it possible for all of us to be here tonight. So we're incredibly grateful to the sponsors.
I think Slay took care of all that.
Yeah.
I mean imbibing it.
He did so, yeah.
Yeah,
no, there were a few less full bottles of Monkey Shoulder in the green room than there were by the time we got here, about 20 minutes ago. But you're ready to hear from the head coach, right? All right, let's talk a little shop. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to bring Brian Callahan up on the stage. Go get your cocktails. If you're VIP, make sure you get the great food that's been prepared here for people. And we'll break down the new Titans 9 players, including, of course, Cam Ward, coming up next.
Good stop. We're going back again. We're going back again. Here we go. Hey. Car ain't got no roof. We be in the city. All right, cut it. But Buck mom get mad at me. Cut it. She's gonna be like, boy, Buck, you keep letting that guy be on stage playing that crazy music. I got him. I ain't gonna let him play it no more. All right, y'all. We got the main event. How we feeling? All right, so listen to this, though. Don't y'all be scared or ashamed. This kind of like the classroom setting. You know, you remember when you was in middle school, they used to tell you, you know, raise your hand for you ask a question and all that. Feel free. Don't even raise your hand. Just ask a question. It's okay. Ain't no rules. We make our own rules. So when you see Cosell up here, you see Buck up here, Coach Callahan, when he comes up, just holler out a question. I'm sure they have some kind of orderly way you're supposed to do it, but just tell them Big Slay told you, just holler it out. And everything ought to be cool, I promise you. I promise you. Hey, how many people know about the Boom Boom Room? Make some noise. So that was about 3/4 of the people. The other quarter, we got to get y'all up to speed, you know. So maybe y'all ain't listening throughout the day, 3 to 6. Make sure you listen to 3HL. We may put Callahan in the Boom Boom Room. You'd like to see that, wouldn't you? Then Buck will be mad at Aaron. What's up? Buck will be mad at me. He'll be like, "You're taking over the show." I don't really want to do that. But give it some love, man. Ramon, Kayla, and Will, their show is in the building. What's up, Kayla? Y'all give us some love. And if you're wondering why I'm walking back and forth, let me just go and get that out the way. If you stand right here, these lights are hot. I got all black on. I'm black. Sweat kind of easy. I'm a hefty guy, so I got to move back and forth. The Buck Reising show, you already know. Our new show, Cover 2. Zach Lyons and Blaine Bishop, the hitman. Give them some love. Right, Landon. Hey, and you know 3HL, y'all gonna give us some love. Britt Doherty is in the building. I seen him upside. Yoro. I think that might be the 3rd time in life that I've called him Brent Doherty by his old name, but it's Mayor or Yoro. Yeah, I see you up there. All right, it's time. It's time, ladies and gentlemen. Cosell will come back up here. I don't think I got to reintroduce him, you know what I mean? But if I need to, y'all tell me. Y'all know, did y'all know Cosell used to hoop? Y'all knew that? Yeah, man. Yeah, he ain't just running around 6'4", 6'5" for nothing. Yeah, he ain't one of them. So, yeah, Cosell used to get down, man. I put him in the Boom Boom Room right now, though. If anybody throw me the ball, I put him in there right now. Buck Reising is going to come back up. Y'all give some love. But, the main attraction, not saying these guys are not the main attraction, not saying that at all. Yeah, we ain't hurting pride, we ain't hurting egos or none of that. But what we are doing is letting you know the head coach, year 2, the one and only guy that we brought in. I say we like I was part of the management. You know? So, you know what I mean? We brought him in. Brian Callahan, man, y'all put your hands together for him. Now, what you got to understand is, there it is.
How are you?
Good to see you. I'm going to get on out of here, man, unless y'all want me to stay and break some plays down. Y'all want me to ask the first question?
Get off this.
Y'all want me to ask the first question? All right, let me hit my drink real quick. Hold on.
Are you ready for this?
So what y'all think I'm going to ask? Anybody, if you know me, what y'all think I'm about to ask? And guess what? I don't need an answer. You damn right he gonna start. Nah, y'all enjoy it, man. The install, baby.
All right.
Give it up for Brian Callahan, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever sat through an introduction that long in your entire life?
No.
I thought it was my show, Buck.
How's that microphone still on?
I know, exactly.
He brought his own damn batteries to this thing.
Cut them off.
That's what I'm saying. No, we appreciate you stopping by. And you guys, I know how excited you are. You've been talking about it all week. It's a really cool time of year and kind of an opportunity to reset and get this thing up where you guys think it should be.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. We have had the players have been back now for 2 weeks in the building, and we're actually on the field on Monday, so that's exciting. And all the rookies will be here Thursday, so we'll get that process started for them and get them back in the building and get going.
Y'all excited about the rookies?
Got a good crowd in here tonight.
What'd you think this was? They didn't brief you, did? You better check to make sure Robert didn't put anything under your chair. There's a couple of different things you got to watch out for at events like this. But Greg is so tired of carrying me through football conversations because as Keith Bullock will tell you, my football IQ not very high. So
That's not what you tell me.
Well, yeah, that's because I can lie to you. But we really appreciate you being a part of this and being willing to break down the plays for the audience. This is really the only NFL market that does something like this.
This is great. It's a really cool event. And that's when you guys approached me about doing it. I thought it'd be fantastic. Get to go talk some football, watch some tape, and hopefully give you guys something cool to listen to.
Yeah, Greg's been waiting to pick your brain. We got a lot of plays from these rookies that we're going to get into. In particular, we're going to start with the quarterback, Cam Ward, #1 overall pick.
Feels appropriate.
I mean, I am Anner, exciting player, but we can start with Cam if you want to.
Let's do it.
Okay, so when you guys were going through the process of vetting Cam, you've talked about, wanting to make sure you took your time to get to know this player. And I'm so fascinated to hear how you evaluate quarterbacks where you see, all right, this is a guy who's clearly talented, who's clearly made of the right stuff, who can get himself into some situations that are maybe less than ideal, but I can fix those. Yeah. Those are correctable.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. As you go through... Hey. As you go through the pros and cons of a player like that, how did you come to the decision as a group with you and Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker and the rest of the Titans powers that be that this was going to be your guy?
Well, you look at a lot of things. The talent is the first and foremost. And the tape, when you watch it, his arm talent jumps off the tape. His ability to process, I think, is where you start to look because everybody has a good arm. I mean, most of these college quarterbacks can all throw the ball fine. They all run their offenses relatively well. That's why they're in these conversations. But what you really are trying to find is what kind of makeup and what sort of processing ability does the quarterback have. Is when you look at how he looks at defenses, where he finds completions, where the space is in the defense, how quickly he finds those spaces. And that's where it really started to jump off. And then you see the makeup of the person, which I think is a lot of you have probably already seen. Just a phenomenal young man. I mean, raised by two great parents and has all the things that you look for from a tangible standpoint when you're looking at how are they made up. And that's always the biggest box to check and the hardest one to fully get through is what's the makeup like? What does the mind work like under pressure? What kind of personality they have? Can he handle being the #1 overall pick and the pressure that comes with that? There's a lot that comes with that. So everything we did in the process, he's sort of incrementally checked those boxes when you're looking for the things that quarterbacks need to do to be able to be successful. And sort of every way along the way, he just kept answering the bell every time that we got through it. So it's exciting.
So let me ask you this, because when I watch tape, I always find this sometimes hard, because obviously the college game, just the symmetry of the field is different than the NFL game because of the hash marks.
Yep.
So it's a little different in terms of how the defense can play zone coverage. So, everybody talks about decision making, they talk about anticipation. Sometimes when I watch college quarterbacks, and maybe this is just my thing, I struggle with really getting a great feel for what anticipation truly is, because it's not the same. Throwing, let's say, window throws in the NFL is not, you don't really see exactly those kinds of throws in college football.
No.
Because the field's different, and you don't see a lot of that.
The defenses are different.
The defenses are different.
There's just a different style of play. In the NFL, I guess the best way to put it as we start talking ball is a lot of times in the NFL, you have to throw the ball before a guy's anywhere near the spot, or you don't even know if he's open.
Right.
Because most of the time you're throwing to spots, you're anticipating windows. And in college football, it's a lot more of seeing guys come open.
Correct.
That's probably the best way I can describe it is you see a receiver running into a zone, then they go. Whereas in the NFL, you better go long before that spot or the ball's going to get picked.
Right.
That's probably the biggest difference, and it's hard to see.
It's hard to see, because I always felt that there was a difficult choice to be made with college between anticipation and predetermination. And that's a hard thing to differentiate.
Yes.
Because just based on what you said. So, a lot of people talk about, he's got great anticipation. And then because I watch so much tape, I think to myself, well, how do you really see that in college football? That's a hard thing to see.
I would say the average person just watching college football would never be able to understand that. Just with the naked eye, just watching, it'd be really hard to understand. Because there is definitely that element in college football. The offenses are so much different.
Yep.
Especially when you talk about some of the for example, Tennessee, right? University of Tennessee, that spread out, that system. People
That's as
don't
pure
run
air
that.
raid as you get in college football.
Correct.
Right.
And so sometimes those are, as you say, predetermined. Well, it's the ball's going here no matter what.
Right.
And it looks like they're doing it quickly, but
Right.
it may not necessarily be what they may not really be seeing anything
Right.
of any substance.
Right, and the other thing, and I didn't know a ton necessarily about the University of Miami offense, other than what I saw on tape. I don't know how it's coached, but a lot of times, these guys aren't necessarily taught in college football a lot about defenses. It's, as you know, it's a lot more of that pure progression where it's, okay, here's the primary. If he's not open, it doesn't matter why he's not open. Just go to number 2. If number 2's not open, hey, it doesn't matter. Kurt Warner and I have these conversations all the time. It drives him nuts that a lot of these.
I've heard him on a soapbox.
Yeah. It drives him nuts that a lot of college quarterbacks are not taught anything about defense.
Mm-hmm. I think what the best way to break that down is, you might have a particular play that the primary is for cover 4.
Right.
And all of a sudden you don't get
cover
cover 4.
4.
You get cover 1.
Right.
Instead of just working through the progression, the really good quarterbacks in the NFL know immediately where that answer is. So
Right.
instead of even starting there, they just work right to wherever that initial answer is versus man coverage. And so it's this recognition game that you play.
Right.
And the really good ones are
Do
outstanding
it,
at.
they know instantaneously.
Correct.
Yeah, but that's hard to know in college, I think. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say it's almost impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just is. And
No, it is.
No
I
big
don't-
deal.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a slight.
No.
It's
It's
just the style of the
it's
game.
just the style of the game. Exactly.
Yeah.
2 of the 3 people on this stage have watched and broken down tape with Peyton Manning. So we're gonna watch some tape with the 2 guys that have been through the process and understand what it is that they're seeing, other than dopes like me that just yell about it for a living. So if we could
Well, just
start.
before we do that, let
We
me
can.
tell you the quick story. So this goes back years when Peyton was playing, obviously. And so with NFL Films, I was asked to go do an X&O piece with Peyton. So I go out to, it was probably in the off season, obviously, because once, training, he doesn't deal with anything.
Never.
No, as you know, because you were there. So you may even have been there the time I was there, who knows. But so we're actually sitting and watching tape, and there were 2 plays we were going to break down. Of course, with Peyton, you could go over 2 plays. It could take you 3 hours.
Yeah.
We're
going to try not to do that tonight.
Right.
I could easily do that.
Right. So this was a highlight of my career, just so you guys can understand it. And I've been with.
That's hurtful, by the way. I'm right here.
Right.
I only spent 30 minutes with you once a week, Greg. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right here.
Well, it was the second.
come on.
It was the second highlight of my career.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm sitting there and we're watching this particular play, and he's talking through the play and the concept and the whole deal, and he can talk forever about it. And then I just threw in a comment because I'm thinking of how I'm going to put the piece together, because I'm doing a piece for NFL Films, and I just wanted to make sure something was said so I could put the piece together. So I say something, and he turns to me and he goes, "Man, you really know your shit." And that was like a highlight of my career.
Yeah.
Right there.
When he gives you that compliment.
I know.
Yeah,
that was like I was like, okay, I'm done. I'll see you later.
that's all you need.
I was done. Yeah.
You just ride off of the sunset.
Exactly.
for that
Yeah.
one.
Well, I do want to get to the tape, but it's an interesting question because you've worked with so many different types of quarterbacks, different personalities. You have to understand how to be malleable, of course, and not to take one thing away from one experience or another, but because you've had such a great opportunity, earned opportunity throughout the course of your career to work with Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, Derek Carr, these kind of players. I wonder, as you were working your way up through the rungs of NFL coaching, which was the most impactful for you? I imagine Peyton Manning was quite an
it'd be
impact.
hard not to. I mean,
Sure.
the impact that he made on my career is and how to play the quarterback position. I mean, that was a PhD in quarterback play and quarterback preparation. It was incredible. I got 4 years of it in the room every day with him, and that's a very formative part of my career. I mean, there's things I lean on that all the time, even now. But then I had the really unique experience, and Matthew Stafford was great. I was with Matthew for 2 years. I think he's criminally underrated quarterback in this league. But the one that I think really I got to apply a lot of those lessons was Joe Burrow. All the things that I sort of learned between Peyton and Matthew and a little bit of Derek, 'cause I was only with Derek for a year, I got to sort of put into play with a similar situation. Number 1 overall pick, really good young player, to go through that process and be able to use all that information to help another young player develop, I think was probably one of the cooler parts of my coaching career, was being part of that journey. And I'm really, really excited that I get a shot to do it again.
So were you there the first year with Burrow?
You can clap for that if you want.
Yeah,
So,
please.
welcome. You should be fired up.
So it was Kenny Sambisi was there then, right?
No,
Or he left?
He had just left. We were there. We got there in 2019.
Okay, because I know Kenny,
And he had left in 18.
Got it,
And
got it.
we drafted Burrow in 20.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's watch some of
He's
this
a good
quarterback,
coach.
yeah?
Oh, he's great.
We ready?
do it.
Greg, you got it queued up. Let's start with the first game of Cam Ward's season last year, his first game with the Hurricanes against Florida. It's a 23-yard touchdown pass that we are going to take a look at here. And obviously with Cam Ward, there's so many different elements of his game that make him exciting. And I think with the list of plays that we put together, we'll be able to see it here
Right.
in front of us, and the audience will have it behind us. For Cam, when you watch him working through these things and kind of diagnosing, as Greg says, isolating and eliminating throughout the course of the process, how interesting, how innate is that ability among quarterbacks to be able to make that work?
There's a certain amount of like instinct that quarterbacks have that you can't coach. And Cam's got that instinct
Yep.
when it comes to how quickly he sees the field, how fast his mind processes what's happening. And there's something that I think we've said before that you might have caught on to, but he feels space. And I guess
Yes.
the best way I can put that is sometimes he makes a throw or two and he throws the ball and he completes it. And you look at it and you go, how in the world did you get there? You know, how did that happen? And sometimes the best ones can't really tell you because they just feel it.
Right.
And there's no real like concrete, oh, I saw this and this. They go, no, I just sort of felt this and I knew the window was there and I threw it. And you're like, okay, well, that's good. I'm glad.
right. And every once in a while, they'll make a bad one.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to, I assume you got to kind of live with that.
You have to live with those things. And,
Yeah.
and every quarterback makes bad throws.
Right.
Every quarterback has moments that they'd like to have back. That's from the best players in this league
Sure.
to the youngest players in our
I
league.
mean,
the
I don't know how
rookies,
you
so.
feel, but I always feel, watching tape and I've been doing it for a good amount of years, that I'd rather have a quarterback that's mentally aggressive and works top down as opposed to a guy who's really just quick to check it down. Because I think in this league, you got to make throws.
Yeah, you got to make explosive plays.
You got to make throws. Yeah.
Explosive plays in this league is what wins you games. It flips the field. It puts you in scoring
Yeah,
position.
yeah.
It's a critical part of being able to score enough points. To
Right.
and you want quarterbacks that have, like Matthew Stafford's a great example.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's got incredible talent, and his ability to make throws is probably on par with about two other people on the planet.
Right.
And he would try to make them. And
Yeah.
part of that is, and he makes some unbelievable throws, and every now and again, he makes some bad ones.
Right.
And you live with those
Right.
because the rest of them are so fantastic. And that's what you want to see. Is you want a quarterback that's got an aggressive mindset, that has the confidence to make the throw, that when he sees knows he's got a tight window to throw it into, he just lets it rip. And you want that mindset.
Just one more, if I could. So with a quarterback like Stafford, you were with him, for 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
So when a quarterback like that clearly makes like a bad throw or a bad decision, I mean, obviously you're not going to yell at him or anything, but when you're in the film room and you're going over it, because he probably knows that it was, do you just kind of move on? I mean, do you ask him what you see, or how do you deal with that when you get into the film room?
Especially a guy like him who's sort of earned the right to do that.
Right.
He's really open about, I thought I could make this throw and didn't work out.
And then at that point you just move on, because what are you going to say?
And you say, you know what? Good point. Hey, look, here's what you could have done. There's
Right.
Look at this guy that might be wide open if you just were a little more conservative in this moment, but you don't want to take those guys'
No.
edge away. And
Right.
so you live with that. The old live by the sword, die by the sword.
Right.
So guys that have that mentality, you have to work within it and work with them on it, because you never want to take away what makes them special. And that's one of the things that makes Matthew special, is that ability. And Cam's got some of those traits.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Some of those traits where you don't want to take that away from him.
Right.
Well, let's take a look. Greg Burns, if you're ready for me back there, let's start with that first Cam Ward play, if you could. So we've got this against Florida, this 23-yard touchdown pass. Brian, I'll let you take it from here.
Oh, and this was you go ahead.
Yeah, this is great. So it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you look up and you're like, all right, cool. That's great.
Right.
Great
Right.
throw.
Right.
But what you see here is they end up disguising the coverage a bit, and you see him, the safety come ripping out of there, and the pass rush gets home. And so
Yeah,
one of the
stunned.
things
Yeah.
that is unique about quarterbacks Let's go ahead, wind that one back a little bit.
We can stay there a while. That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredibly
Ridiculous
tough
throw. Yeah.
But you can see he's got no time in the pocket to even probably, we talk about the processing part. Well, the other part of it is if you can't set your feet and see it, it's really difficult. What Cam does so well, especially in this particular clip, is the rush. The left tackle gets beat so bad.
It's a stunt. They get beat by the picker.
And Cam just feels it. He's not even looking at it. He just feels it, and he can wheel out of there. And then this is what makes Cam special. Like that's just talent. I can't coach that.
But you like to have it.
But I love it.
You like to have it. Yeah.
You're so much better than me. I would totally take credit for that.
Yeah.
Right.
But those are, and that's what you see. Cam's upper body. He has this looseness to his body. He's got an ability to move the way he can move his hips and his arm angles. It's really, really natural, and he can change his arm angle. There's a couple good ones on here we'll see, but just the ability to his body to contort in those different spots. Rolling to the left and getting your hips flipped and throwing that kind of ball. That's a rare ability.
I was going to say he has kind of natural core torque, natural weight transfer.
It's a great way to put it.
He can do that.
Yes.
Not a lot of guys can.
Not
when they're running to their left.
Not like that.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the second Cam Ward play. It's another touchdown pass. Maybe you see more of those here in Tennessee. Certainly got the talent for it. So what are we looking at here?
I think this was the scissors concept, was it not?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So you can see here. So this is what's great. These are the things when you start watching tape. If you could pause it for me real quick. I'm gonna start getting up.
That's fine. I should have brought you a laser pointer.
I know. So what you see is, and one of the things that I wanted to get more into in the process as we looked at Cam, is you see him operate the line of scrimmage a lot, and so you see him check. He's got great command over the scheme and what they're trying to get done. And you see here, he recognizes quarters. This is one of the plays we actually asked him about in our combine meeting the first time we met him is, what are you doing here? Why are you doing this?
That makes me feel good because I broke this down in my matchup show for the draft. So that makes me feel pretty good.
That's what I'm talking about.
There we go.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning 1, Brian Callahan 2. There we go.
And so you can see Cam is actively checking to this particular concept, and it's a concept that's designed to beat quarters.
Yep.
And he does a great job. He sees it, and then you just see the physical talent to get that ball.
That's a strike. You got to control the backside safety there.
Correct. And when you look at it from this angle, you see him communicating. He's got great command. The protection's getting directed. His pulse stays at like 50 the entire time.
Yep.
But you can see him. He's communicating. He's checking the play. He signals the route. He makes the signal there.
Incredibly calmly, too.
Yeah. No rush. No panic. Snaps the ball. Knows exactly what he's looking at.
Look where he looks immediately. The backside safety.
Correct. And so and to Greg's point, which is great, is when you see that, those are the things that we talk about when you're trying to find things, when you're evaluating a quarterback. What do they see and how do they process it? And Cam knew immediately, all I had to do was hold this backside safety.
Yep.
So you see his eyes immediately go to the safety, and all he does is just wait for the safety to hold, and then he just resets and rips the ball and lets his talent take over. And those are the plays as a coach that you get really excited about.
And it's funny, you being with Stafford for 2 years, you always hear people say like arm strength is not a big deal, and of course that's a relative term.
Sure.
But I think arm strength is the kind of thing, I always feel like arm strength is like insurance. It doesn't matter until it matters. Sometimes you need to make a throw that, you need some arm strength.
That's a T-shirt.
Sometimes. What?
We're going to make merch for the podcast.
Right.
Keep doing your thing. I'm thinking different things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
To me, that's like you got to drive that ball.
You have to. That's a throw, and even the timing that he makes it, that's the difference sometimes between college and the NFL.
Right.
That's a throw that potentially, in the NFL, that's probably an interception. So those are the things you got to look at. You got to do that much faster at this level, where he's playing against Virginia Tech.
And that translates because you see a ton of quarters in the red zone in the NFL.
All day long.
That route concept and that kind of throw that relates to the NFL.
Yeah, and that's what you hope to see.
Yeah.
You want to see concepts, and that's what makes Cam fun to evaluate. Is you see all the concepts that are pretty familiar to most There's some version of most offenses, so it makes it easy to see how he can process those concepts.
I would like another touchdown pass, please, Greg. I'm enjoying this. This is Cam Ward and the Miami Hurricanes against Louisville. A little ACC action here.
Yeah, this one's ridiculous too.
We tried to find some pretty good ones.
Again, you can see the same thing. He operates. He's checking routes. He checks plays. He knows what he's seeing. And what ends up happening here is they're trying to run a kind of a similar concept as the last play,
Yeah.
but they're doing it down the middle, and they're trying to do the same type of thing versus a quarter safety, but they cover it pretty well, right? The defense wins sometimes. They got coaches and they got money too, so sometimes the defense wins a rep. But then this is what makes him unique, is that his ability to, when the ball is in his hand, and he also knows, and when you ask him this is what the most fun is, he knows it's a three-man rush. And so quarterbacks in empty, when they understand it's a three-man rush, they know they can buy time. There's only 3 guys rushing. So he's very much aware of the rush pattern, and he knows, I got time, I can buy time here. And he rolls out and then again lets his athletic ability take over and makes another ridiculous throw.
It's just
across his
crazy
body.
when he's left like that.
Yeah. These are not throws that are easy to make.
No.
No, it is not. It's not something that most people just walk out there and do. But that's where like Cam's unique athleticism comes into play. And he's, he didn't run 40s, and he might not look like the fastest guy in the world, but he's got an innate ability to find space and separate. And the one thing that's critical about quarterbacks that do that is his eyes are always downfield. Like you said, they're always looking for the big play.
And I'm always leery of comparing guys to great players, but I think, and you would know this better than I think Burrow's like that. Burrow's not necessarily going to run like Josh Allen, but he has this innate ability to find space.
Yeah. Create yards.
Right. And I'm not sure you can coach that.
No. Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I'd be.
Right.
It's all me, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a mental, it's a brain functioning thing.
They
just feel
kind
that
of an
stuff.
innate thing. They feel it. Yeah.
I want to go to a play that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, this is a fun
against
one.
Syracuse. So, Greg, if we could go to the bonus play, there is how we have it labeled, I believe. It's not a successful play because it's an incompletion,
Right.
but it is something that I think that the audience is going to appreciate how you kind of saw the success for Cam despite it not being a completed pass.
Yeah, this was one of the plays this is probably one of the first plays. I think this is one of the first games I watched when I started watching Cam. And these are the things that you look at from an evaluation perspective and a coaching perspective that you wonder, what is this guy? And ultimately, the more you watch his tape, the more you see that he is really a fantastic pocket player. And so
I agree with that.
that was like, okay, he's got my attention now.
Oh, you got to catch that though.
Right.
Oh, that's
So it ends up being a
heartbreaking.
drop. It's a second and I think maybe 8 or 9. But that under duress, they got there's a double A gap pressure. They cross the middle of the pocket. It's really muddy. It starts to get really soft and collapse as you guys see it. And again, just like his personality is, he stays. He doesn't panic. He knows where the throw is. He puts his foot in the ground. He stands in there, and he basically almost like bends his arm around the defender. And the ball comes. I was like, how did that ball even get there? And that's a
hell of a
That's an
throw.
unbelievable throw. Like, that was one of the plays that I look at that aren't on SportsCenter that I look at and I was like, wow, that's really impressive.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
It's funny, before you came out, I was telling the audience that one thing that I really look for, and sometimes with college quarterbacks, depending on the nature of the offense, it's hard to find, but I try to find plays where the quarterback has to throw out of muddy pockets, because you're going to have to do that in the NFL.
That's every pocket on third down.
Right.
Just the way it is.
And sometimes with college quarterbacks, I remember watching Trevor Lawrence years ago. I'm sure you watched him, and the nature of the Clemson offense was, you couldn't find many throws where there were people around him.
Right.
And you had to keep looking and looking and looking.
And the hard part about evaluating quarterbacks in college is you don't necessarily know how good the actual other talent is.
Right,
Playing.
right.
You don't know if the front's that good. You don't know if their line's that good. Because
Right.
you're not really looking at it. Now, some people do. The people
Right.
that watch it for a living know. But
Right.
those are the things that show up where it's like you want to see quarterbacks under as much duress as
agree.
possible. Like, that's when you're evaluating. I want to see guys under pressure as often as possible because
Yep.
that's just what it is in the NFL. These guys all make $100 million across the line of scrimmage, and they sack the quarterback for a living.
Right.
They're pretty good at
There's
it.
going to be bodies around you, and you mentioned third down. There's going to be, on third down, there's bodies around you.
Yeah, when they know you have to throw it,
Yeah.
that pocket's going to be soft. It's going to be muddy. That's every team in the league, and he does a really good job of navigating those things and standing in there. He doesn't panic under the pressure.
And he can sit on his back foot and drive the football.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah,
He's got-
yeah.
And the ball comes out so fast.
So fast.
that
Yep.
as soon as his mind says throw, the ball's out of his hand.
You guys enjoying this? Yeah. How much better is it when I talk less and let the smart football people talk? Thank you. Yes. So contrary to popular belief, there are other players in this draft class.
There is. It's really fun.
There are?
Okay. Yes, Greg. In fact, I have several plays for you guys to talk about. Greg Burns, if we could go to Chimere Dike, the new wide receiver out of Florida. And if we could start with that first play, it's a second quarter play against UCF where Florida's in the lead. It's a 2nd and 5 play with the ball on the 38.
Yeah, so Chim's a unique player. He can play inside, he can play outside.
Number 17
Number
for those of you
17
watching.
down at the bottom. He's got real speed. He's got strength and size.
Is this a seam ball?
This is the seam ball, I think.
Yeah, it's a seam ball. That's down to like the 1 yard line, 2 yard line. Yeah. He can run.
Yeah, he runs really well.
Yep.
He's tough in traffic.
Yep.
He's got good size, and you can see he had a ton of production down the field.
Yeah. Yep.
And across the field. So you see a lot of crossing routes and deeper routes. He's got the ability to stretch the field.
I thought he was a movement kind of guy in the sense that those kinds of routes, like crossers, overs, verticals.
Yeah, that's what they did with him at Florida. Did a nice job using him. He moves, he goes in motion.
Yep.
I said he's kind of an inside-outside flex player. He can do some stuff in a slot. You can line him up outside. He's still fast enough and strong enough to go win outside, but he's got a unique ability to really stretch the interior part of the field.
Yes.
And you see it in those crossing routes all season long.
That's what I thought, like initially, I don't know, you see him in your offense, but I thought he'd be more like a movement Z because you want him to get free access because he's got stride length.
Yes, that's where he's going to start for us.
Yeah.
I see him really as he's got, we call him a 3-hole player. He can play all 3 spots.
Right.
But we'll start him out as our Z.
Right.
And use him, move him around. He'll be behind Calvin to start.
Right.
And those guys are all competing all those things, but he starts out in that particular spot where we can move him off the ball and use some motion to get him open.
Yep.
He had a hell of a game against Tennessee.
Sure did.
It's all right. He's on your team now. Relax. It's okay. Let's go to the second Chimere Dike play. This was a fun game that came down to the wire. This is about 30 seconds left. Again, the arrow on him, number 17.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really nice job setting the route up. You see him as he stems it vertical. The safety thinks he's going to run a 7 cut to the corner.
Yep.
Kneeling, rocking, by the way, which is why that camera's shaking as bad as it is.
He ends up moving that safety, getting his hips turned, and then just crosses his face. And that's a really hard route to defend, especially when you're as fast as he is and you're running full
Get him on the
speed
safety.
right on top of the safety.
Yep.
Makes it easy for him.
Yeah.
When, when it's all right. Again, who gave him a microphone? Or is he just that loud? Just that loud. Don't worry, we'll do boom boom room stuff later. Got a T-shirt on and everything. Branding. See, Greg, we'll figure it out. I am curious when you are, because obviously when you talk about your experience with previous quarterbacks, you obviously have skill players that help those quarterbacks accomplish what they're trying to do. And in the case of Joe Burrow, you had a fire-breathing dragon named Jamar Chase that is excellent at what he does. T. Higgins also not playing a small part there. Tyler Boyd at the time, of course. And you don't necessarily have a Jamar Chase in this locker room, but I guess if you could kind of explain when you guys were looking at how you were going to support Cam, the combination of the veterans that you brought in with 3 of them and 2 skill players in particular at wide receiver that were drafted, and we can talk about Xavier Restrepo I don't know if we're commenting on UDFAs yet.
Not yet.
Okay. I tried.
His valiant attempt.
Yeah,
I would say that's what you hope for is you want some veteran players that know how to play and that can really help a young player. A Tyler Lockett, Van Jefferson, and obviously we have Calvin. Those guys that have played a lot of football can give feedback, can kind of put their arm around a young player and let them know kind of how things work at the receiver spot in the NFL. Those guys are great to have. And then you also have we have a bit of an infusion of younger talent with obviously and Gunnar Helm as well, tight end and 2 pass catchers that we drafted that you hope kind of grow with him, and not all that dissimilar from Jamar and T with Joe. Where you got some young players that they can develop some chemistry, they can grow together, they can sort of be the future pieces of what you're looking for offensively. Now, they got to go do it. It sounds great to me talking about it, but that's sort of the philosophy. That's the idea between having that good mix of young players and veterans in that receiver room.
If we could go to Alec Iamaner, whose name I think I pronounced correctly, out of Stanford. Yeah, thank you. You know.
That was tricky.
You guys did a number on us. Yeah, poor Bullock out there announcing Femi Oladipo. I mean, he slowed down before it. He sounded like he hit a speed bump, and he did it pretty well, honestly.
He recovered.
He got there. We are going to go to Alec's first play, Greg, if we could, which comes against Syracuse. A lot of film against Syracuse from both Cam and Alec Iamander, number 13 for the Cardinal.
Yeah, this one's easy. Ooh,
Oh.
yeah. The route concept there was great. Got him wide open, which is helpful. A little stalk rail. He goes up and stalks and hits the rail spot. And this is again the next part is he's big. He's a big, strong dude. He's 6'2" and change, and he's 4'4" runner. He's 210 pounds roughly. He's really got the physicality you're looking for at the receiver.
He's got a physical presence to him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he can make contested catches. He's kind of got that combat catch mentality. He's a guy, if you're talking positional specific alignments, he's more like an X receiver.
Yes.
Where you can let him go isolate and go take one-on-ones and use his size and his strength and his speed. But he's a really young, talented player, really smart player on top of it. So excited about him.
And people don't know, because I watched him last summer from 2023. He had some really good success against Travis Hunter.
Yeah,
I think people know now.
He ran by
They're
Hunter.
They're in the same division now.
He ran by Hunter a couple of times in 2023.
It was a pretty impressive.
It
game.
was, wasn't it? Yeah.
He showed off his size against the
And
guy like Travis.
He's kind of straight line linear, but he can run.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can run. He's got some ability to sink and get out of the cut at the top. You see some change races, but it's not the same as like what DK is.
Right.
They're a little bit different style player.
Correct.
You want a variety of pass
course.
catchers.
You want every dimension if you can.
Yeah.
So let's keep it with the Syracuse game, but let's go from the first quarter to the fourth quarter, and this one came down to the wire. Stanford trailing 23-24 in the game. They just keep feeding this dude throughout this drive.
And there you see him aligned at the X, and this is what those guys can go do. Is you go one-on-one, you're going to be into the boundary a lot, and that's the job. And he gets a one-on-one matchup, and the quarterback puts a back shoulder ball, and it's a really nice adjustment. But you just see his size and catch radius and body strength. That's a huge play one-on-one down the field, and those are the things that you want to see from that type of body.
Yep.
One more for Alec, and then we'll talk about Gunnar Helm, the tight end. And I do want to get a couple of questions in for Coach Callahan, and then we'll have Greg answer some questions as well. We appreciate you doing this for a good cause. The people at Home Street Home are really excited about being
really
a part
cool
of it. And
thanks for coming out, everybody, too.
Yeah, it's great.
so we'll take a look at our last Alec play against SMU. Now, this was not a great game for Stanford. They were down 21-0.
They did not have a great year.
No. Not ideal. Andrew Luck changing the program. Frank Reich's in there as the coach now, as a matter of fact.
Under the radar spring coach hire.
Pretty
I
interesting.
didn't see that. He's at Stanford now?
Yeah. They're getting the band back together.
I know Rivera's at Cal.
They're bringing all the guys back.
I know.
So this is, again, Alec Iamander, one of the fourth round receivers that the Titans just picked up.
Yeah.
He's a big, strong kid.
And that's what you're looking for when you're looking for outside receivers, and I just compare it back to, the draft we had in Cincinnati when we drafted Joe. We drafted T at the top of the second round, and T. Higgins is that style of player.
Yeah.
You want to balance out your core with a bunch of guys that can do a lot of different things, and he's capable of being that kind of big, strong. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, Jeff Simmons fired up over there. I don't know if I got to be worried about that one the way I was the first one, but we'll get through it.
But that's what you want. You want to see guys that can make those contested catches, because inevitably everything in the league is contested.
Especially if you're the
every time.
boundary X. You're going to have to make those kinds of plays.
Yeah, all these guys can cover. They can all run.
Yeah,
They're all long on defense too, and so the ability to go physically beat the corner is what you're looking for, and he's got that.
Greg, I'm going to let you pick a Gunnar Helm play because I want to make sure that we get Coach Callahan out in time. He's been good to give us some of his time this evening.
Well, I'm trying to, let's see. You can
got
pick
a couple to pick from.
Any one of the three, really.
So, Greg, if you would, let's just go with this one against Colorado State. Let's go with the first play, if you would, in the first quarter, 10-12. In the first quarter at this point in time, he's number 85.
Yeah, Gunner has this really unique ability after the catch.
Yeah, that's his strength, I thought.
And he's got a really long wingspan, right? So he's got a big catch radius, and so for a quarterback like Cam that likes to throw the ball in the middle of the field, he becomes a very reliable and friendly target for the quarterback. That's the best way I can probably describe him. He's very quarterback friendly. He's got body awareness. He's got coverage awareness. He knows how to get open, and he uses that length.
Let me ask you this, because I saw him as, and I know Mike Borgonzi obviously was a major part of your whole process.
Yeah.
I saw him as more like a tight end 2 than a pure tight end 1. And I don't know how you feel, but the guy, and I didn't know you were going to draft him, but when I watched him, I thought that could he be a Noah Gray type player? You know, that's what crossed my mind.
That's a good
obviously, not
comparison.
knowing who you were going to draft, but obviously Mike came from the Chiefs.
Yep.
You know.
He's definitely in that mold. Like having him and Chig on the field at the same
Right,
time
right.
is going to be something that'll be fun to see. He's not like when you say a one tight end. It's probably more like he's not a like inline thumper. Like he's not necessarily changing the line of scrimmage in the run game.
Right.
But he's got really valuable pass game traits, and that's
Right.
when you draft a tight end like that, you really want the pass game traits before you want those sort of hammerhead traits.
Right.
You need those too, but when you're looking for value in the player,
Right,
the
right.
player that can produce in the passing game
Right,
is always
right.
a little bit more valuable.
Right. No, I agree with that.
Yep.
You drafted a running back named for Superman.
Khalil.
Kal-El. So not the gentrified Superman, not Clark Kent.
Right.
Kal-El.
Right.
Like, so this is Kal-El Mullings out of Michigan and his breakout game against USC. Greg back there, play number 2, if we could. He is a converted linebacker. I'm sure those
He's a
positions
one-year running back.
share a lot of similarities in terms of the physicality required.
Yeah, it's a unique story, and probably he's a guy that probably if he was a 4-year running back in Michigan would likely have probably gone a lot earlier in the draft.
Yeah.
But with 1 year production, he's a big man. He's 6'2", I think, and he's probably
I
200.
thought he was 6'2", 226.
226. He's almost
Yeah.
230 pounds.
Yeah.
He's a big man, and that's a good compliment to what we have with Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Those guys are a little bit more slash quickness out of the backfield. This guy's got some real ability to pound the ball downfield, and your short yardage, your goal line. He's got great special teams ability too as a former linebacker.
I guess that becomes a big factor when you draft.
Huge factor.
Yeah.
You start drafting running backs in that 5th, 6th, 7th round area, they got to find a way on your
Because, and I
team.
wonder, and this is just the way I evaluated players, which there's no right or wrong here. I mean, it's what I saw. Because, for instance, I like Damian Martinez as a runner better. But I don't know if he's a special teams guy because I don't do special teams, and I'm being honest. I don't do special teams. There's not enough hours in my day. So I don't know. Maybe
Slacker.
maybe Damian Martinez doesn't play special teams. I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
usually a lot of times the difference. Is
Right.
that when you're carrying 3 backs, just on your game day active roster, you only get 3.
Right,
Most people
right,
only take 3.
right.
Some people only put 2 up, but depending
Right.
on what you need. But so you get 3 backs on game day, and that 3rd back has
He's gotta play special
He's got to
teams.
play. He's got to be a core player. He's got
Right.
to play all 4 phases, and he's got to be able to carry the ball. And so,
Right.
when you got 2 backs that are pretty good, and Tony and Tajay, he comes in as a complement. But all those other snaps of the game, he's got to contribute somewhere, and the special teams part is huge as well. So
Right.
Those are the guys you look for that got that versatility, especially at that point in the draft, that value that you
Right.
had.
Right.
That's
I'm sure that was a major factor.
it absolutely was.
While Rich, our promotions director, is getting a couple people ready to ask you a question about this draft class or potentially about the team, I wonder if you could speak a little bit on Tony Pollard specifically. Coaches get choked up about effort before, and I thought you, after that Patriots game for you guys this year, really kind of how much it meant to all of you, of course, and given the difficulties of last season, but just the level of effort and ability that Tony Pollard brought to your offense, and what was a difficult situation?
Yeah, he was fantastic from that standpoint. He played hurt for most of the season, from really about that game on. He fought through some pretty, all these guys play hurt, and most people don't know about it. But what he played through, most of our doctors were surprised he could even play. And he played through that for the better half of second part of the year for the most part. And he suited
And you
up.
guys had to manage that.
Yeah,
throughout the course of
we had
the
to manage
season,
him during the week, and but he went out there every week and he laid it out there. And those are the things as a coach and as fans, and you guys don't know those things, but that's what you really start to appreciate about players. The guys that fight through it for the team, for their teammates. Those are the things that really jump out at you when you talk about special personalities, special effort. That was TP the entirety of the season. And as you guys have got to know TP, he's an unbelievable human being. So he's one of my favorite players as far as just that type of mentality.
Yep.
He never said a word, and he went out there and he played. He played hard as hell.
Could I just have one question before we go to the audience?
Sure, and if Vernon Sanford, who I think is first up for the questions, if you could make your way over here to stage my left.
Just getting back to Ward real quick. So now you draft a quarterback, and you've been through this. So when he comes in, I guess he'll be in next Thursday? That's when. So how do you start? Like, now you get a quarterback. You're basically, it's a mold of clay. I mean, he's had great success in college, but it's a whole different deal now. So how do you start the process of kind of developing a quarterback? How do you go about that?
You really try to make them as comfortable as you can as quickly as possible. I told our team yesterday in our team meeting, we're 2 weeks in the offseason program. We got 6 left. We go into training camp, and there's about 5.5 weeks in training camp, and we're playing. I mean, that's it.
Right.
So there's not a lot of time, and even though it kind of feels like there is, but when you really start getting into it, you're pressed, and you're trying to get as much done as you can. So philosophically, we try to make the offense as close and comfortable for a player like Cam as we can. Things that he's got familiarity with as he learns the system. We start to introduce more things that maybe he's not as familiar with as you get going. But the initial part of it is try to make it as close to what his senior year in Miami was.
What he's comfortable with.
What he's comfortable with.
Right.
And make it easy for him. So run the ball, protect him well, those types of things to make some of the things easier. So maybe he doesn't have to make all the great plays every week. We can make less of them and help him out everywhere else. And as he gets more experience and plays more and learns more, you just sort of keep backfilling, the gaps in information and the new scheme that maybe he's not as familiar with. And, then he starts to find out what he likes. And eventually, when a player like that, with the talent he has, like very similar to what we did with Joe in Cincinnati, is it becomes their offense.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the best way I can describe it, is you're trying to make it as easy and as simple so we can play as fast as possible on Sunday.
Do you teach concepts? Is that the way you teach the passing game?
Passing game's all conceptual.
Right, okay.
So as long as he knows where we line up in the formation, what the formation is, motions, etc., he's able. I can tell a concept, and you don't even have to know who's in the game or what the formation is. You know that this concept means.
So if you want to call flood 3-level stretch, all he has to know, hey, what's the formation? But it's flood. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. You're gonna have a post. You're gonna have a sail. You're gonna have flat control.
Right.
And that's how we do how we get there. What formation we use is
you might get there from 5 different formations, but it's flood.
Correct.
Right.
And so try to make it as simple as possible when it comes to that.
Right.
Ashley, did Landon run off? Okay, went to get some ice. I was going to see if he wanted to ask Coach Callahan a question. I have one more thing for you to break down before I let you off the hook here.
Okay.
Do you have that picture back there for me, Greg?
Oh boy, I think this is going to be a surprise.
Well, I like to work something into the mix here. So this is the NFL coaches picture at owners meetings. And this is, of course, as many coaches. This is not every coach in the NFL that's in attendance, but you guys get together, you take the picture.
Close. Yeah.
Can I get a close-up on Coach Callahan, please? Can you explain to me what happened here and why you and Shanahan and Dan Quinn look like hostages?
All right.
Are you well? Are you okay?
I was actually having a great time.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So what ends up happening?
That screams great time to me.
Yeah, that's how I look when I have a good time. So what everybody doesn't know when they take that picture at the league meeting. So we've been in meetings for like 4 hours. So we're in all these meetings and we're talking about all these things around the league, and you get out of it like, okay, now we're gonna go take the picture. And we got like an hour before we got to be back for this like evening event that they have for the NFL. And so it's like the very end of it, and no one's excited. No one wants to take it, and all of us know that inevitably, no matter what we do, you're gonna get destroyed in whatever media market you're in. The internet goes
You're
crazy.
welcome, buddy. I'm here for you.
I know. So everyone's like, all right, I can't wait. No matter what you do, you got no chance at winning. And when we went in, we took it inside this year. Normally they take it outside, which is even worse because this like sun's in your eye and you can't see. It looks terrible. They went inside in this like theater, and so when you look up, there was like 50 people taking pictures.
We don't have to take the picture down, Greg. We can leave the picture. It's okay.
And so you didn't really know where to look. They just all started snapping. So we probably sat there for like 30 seconds, and you're just kind of like sitting there, and I was like looking over there at the other guy taking a picture, and they used the one from that guy over there. So.
But just look at Harbaugh. Harbaugh's having a great time. Jim.
I was smiling at one point. I think they just took the bad version, and then.
Well, Kyle really looks like he's would rather be
a little closer up if we could, Greg. Let me see Shanahan to his left there. Tough. I mean, Kyle Shanahan. What's going on there?
I know.
I mean, there's no defense. I mean, it makes.
I'm sorry I had.
I know.
Look at Jim. Pete Carroll's never. They're both of the Harbaughs. Look at him cheating.
Look at Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Quinn just trying to Dan Campbell just trying to intimidate everybody.
Shane's got a good smile,
Great smile.
Yeah,
Great smile. LaFleur, I don't know what's going on in Green Bay, but nobody has gone more Hollywood than Matt LaFleur since he left here as an offensive coordinator.
You got Miami Mike there too.
Miami Mike. Come on.
It's fun. Yeah, for future years, when you guys see this coach's photo, just know that we're all up there just laughing about whatever whatever some comedian on the internet decides they're going to say about us that day.
I'm sorry.
We're all aware, and there's really no winning, so that's just the way it goes. But I promise, I was in a great mood. I was actually having fun talking to Kyle, as you guys can tell. So.
Yes. Hey, Landon, I'm going to let you ask a Big J Journo question, okay? I'm going to let you tell Brian Callahan why the Titans are your favorite team. You ready, or you're chewing on lemon slices over there? Never been scared of a bike in his life.
I was going to say, don't be shy now.
He's coming for my job. So, Landon, why are the Titans your favorite football team?
Because you scored touchdown.
Love to see him score touchdowns. You looking for Cam Ward to throw some more touchdowns this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Give it up for Brian Callahan, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break. Greg will take your questions. We'll continue to talk some shop, but Coach, really appreciate you stopping by and making this a fun evening for everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Hey, I love to stay in touch. Can I reach out anytime?
Anytime.
All right. I just let you can tell I love talking ball.
Yeah, I'll do it.
How we living out here? How we feeling? You guys still got some energy, some juice? Let's go. We need Slay? Slay's in a bar. And, well, Robert, he's around here somewhere. I don't know where, but he's around here somewhere. But you guys are having a good time, right? This is the third sellout we've had of one of these. We so appreciate the way that you guys support the things that we do, support the podcast. We appreciate the people at Two Rivers Ford and Hattie B's and Milagro, Tequila, Monkey Shoulder Whiskey, Wholesale Supply Group for making this podcast possible, helping us put it on. And Becky, of course, Greg, everybody here at the Analog. It's just a great time, and we always have fun doing it.
Oh, this is awesome.
Well, it's not done yet.
No.
You got to take some questions, bud.
I'm good for as long as you want to go.
You guys got questions? You got questions for the main man? Did you donate to Home Street Home, though? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so make sure that Rich Ferris, Home Street Home is who we're trying to raise some money for here tonight. Incredible group, doing work that a lot of people just either don't have the capacity or don't have the care or just don't have the amount of time that it takes to help support the unhoused community through every step of trying to get back on their feet. And so we try to use nights like this to raise a little money for them because they're doing the real work and we're just up here having fun and trying to raise some money as a result. So we really appreciate the way that you guys support them as well. It means the world. So for people who have donated to Home Street Home, we can take some questions for you, bub.
I'm good.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So Rich has the microphone. Rich, raise your hand. We got Vernon up here first. Vernon, if you could, Greg, where's the best spot for me to put Vernon so you can put him on camera? All right, come on up here, Vernon, if you would. Thanks for doing it, bub. What's your question?
Yeah.
Do you think we can generate pressure up the middle versus on the ends, since our defensive ends are not as seasoned as they were last year?
So, Greg, you got Femi Oladejo as the second-round pick.
Right.
You got Tavondre Sweat, who's
But you
coming
got
back.
Simmons and Sweat inside.
Right. So you've got a unit that has some pieces and parts, but are trying to figure it out. Obviously, is a unit that struggled to get pass rush last year.
Well,
Thanks,
the main thing in this league, and Coach Callahan sort of mentioned it about third down, talking about a quarterback, but third down is the critical down in the league. So the key is, how does an offense have to deal with your pass rush on third down? And if they don't feel that you have quality edge pass rushers, then what happens is they can block those guys one-on-one. Okay, and then that makes it a little harder for your inside guys to go to work. Then you have to start playing games with stunts and different looks, and you have to start scheming pressure. Now, if you end up with quality edge pass rushers, in which case that the offense feels that they have to deal with them formationally with a tight end maybe to one side, or they need to chip, or they need to keep a back or tight end in and only send 4 eligibles instead of 5 eligibles out, because at its core, football is a numbers game. That's what football is. So now, if you can get quality edge pass rushers, which is why they drafted Oladejo, who to me is an ascending player, and he may not be phenomenal from day one, but I really liked his tape, and I think he'll be a really good player. But the goal ultimately is to have edge players so that your inside guys can go to work. And I think that we know Simmons can do it. Sweat, I mean, it was a bad season, obviously, overall, but Sweat had a really good rookie season. And there's no reason to believe that he can't continue.
You can clap for Meatloaf.
Yeah.
He appreciates it.
So we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how that plays out. But, obviously pass rush is a big deal. They know that. You'd like every team in an ideal world would like to be in a position to rush 4, because then you have 7 in coverage, and like I said, it's a numbers game. If you can't create pressure with 4, then you've got to figure out a way to create pressure. So you got to start adding to your pass rush, and that reduces the number of people you have in coverage. It's as simple as that. It's numbers. So you really would like to be able to rush with 4 and be effective.
Brent Doherty of 3HL is here. Get up for the 3HL crew. Brent, you got a question for Greg? He's on 3HL every week. Y'all know this because you listen to 104.5 The Zone all day, every day.
I really don't have a question, honestly.
You were wrestling that microphone away from Rich. I wasn't sure.
No, I was taking a picture of you guys. This is a phenomenal event, and it's an incredible space, and we all appreciate you guys coming out here. That's for sure. Greg, so what is your process moving forward? Now that the NFL draft has happened, do you immediately go into the next year's class? Everybody's talking about the quarterback group. What do you do moving forward?
And Greg, quickly before you answer that, if you guys do have questions, I'd ask you to make your way to this side of the stage so that Rich can give you the microphone.
So in the offseason, I'll make this quick because you're not here necessarily to talk about my world. You're here to talk about the Titans. But I do 2 things in the offseason. Number one, I'll start watching guys who will be in next year's draft because I like to get sort of a head start on guys, and I try to maybe get through 100 guys at least to get a preliminary look. Like when I go in the office on Monday, I'll probably start watching like Carson Beck, Garrett Nussmeier, just, to start getting a feel for guys that'll be in next year's draft. And then the other thing I do, which I can't do during the season when I'm doing my NFL matchup show, is I like taking one side of a ball with a team that is tactically interesting, like let's say the Eagles defense under Vic Fangio, and watching 5 or 6 games in a row, because I can't do that during the season. So when you watch 5 or 6 games in a row, you get a real feel for conceptually what they're doing. Like let's say with the Eagles defense, I decide I'm going to watch 5 games in a row, all their third down and 6 plays. Then you get a feel conceptually and tactically for what exactly they do, in that situation, which is such a critical situation in the league. So those are the kinds of things I do in the off season. I pretty much watch tape every single day because, I love it. And to me, it's an academic and intellectual exercise.
You're a sicko.
I am. I'm a little, yeah. That would be the best way to describe it.
Well, God love you, brother, because I couldn't do it.
Although I do get called a lot of things on social media.
That's all right. Yeah. I love you, Greg.
Yeah.
That's amen. Who we got next, Rich?
We have Kevin from Clarksville.
All right, Kevin from Clarksville. What is this, a sports talk radio show? Kevin from Clarksville. What you got, Kevin?
So what did you think of the cornerback? The cornerback class from this year. We already got, Brownlee from last year. Now we have Marcus Harris from Cal.
Yeah.
What did you think about him? Since we didn't really.
I did him coming out.
And his fit in the secondary, Greg, because
Yeah,
obviously the L'Jarius Sneed thing is something we're trying to figure out
Yeah.
right now. They cut Chidobe Awuzie,
Yep.
and they've got Roger McCreary.
I did Harris. Obviously, they had Cal had 3 guys who were drafted. Coming out. So I did Marcus Harris coming out in detail. I like the player a lot, but I think in the NFL he's a slot guy. That's my sense. I don't know how the Titans see him. I think just based on his size, his length, I viewed him as more of a slot guy. But I thought his tape was good. Was he 5th or 6th round?
He was a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, and again, what I said earlier, when guys are drafted there, they're drafted there for a reason. I mean, does that mean a guy can't make it and be a contributor? Of course not. But there's a reason a guy's a 6th-round pick. I mean, if you think he's great, he's not a 6th-round pick. But his tape was good. I think, like I said, I think ultimately he's a slot. Now, I don't know who the backup. I don't have the roster. I can't remember every guy in the roster. Who would be the backup slot now?
Well, I mean, I thought Brownlee was going to be that coming out, but they seem to like him on the outside.
No, and I think Brownlee will play on the outside.
Yeah, so they're probably looking at trying to get a guy like Marcus Harris
Yeah.
up to speed that way.
Yeah, so I think my sense is he would go into this whole process when they start next week as a slot, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Who we got, Rich?
Jason from Murfreesboro.
Jason from Murfreesboro. You're on line 1.
All right. So maybe more of a question for Coach Callahan, which is gone, but Greg, looking at last year's roster offensively versus what we have coming in, do you expect or should we expect more offensive production out of what we have on paper? Again, we haven't seen them on the field.
Right.
Just love to hear your opinion.
So I'm not sure what do you exactly you want to know about their offense or their defense?
No, offensive production. I mean, should we expect more offensive scoring?
If
that's
I
what we're going to see.
paraphrase for you, Jason,
Yeah.
like Cam Ward with what they got, Greg. You've got Ridley. You've got Lockett now coming in from Seattle. Obviously, he's not a player who's at the peak of his powers, but he's a reliable and available player. You're bringing in Ellick and Chimre Dike. How do you see the support cast?
I would answer that this way. I think Ward, as a rookie quarterback, and I think most teams think this way about rookie quarterbacks, that you want to be in a position where ideally it's not on them to have to win every single week because they're rookies and it's a process. And I think you want to be in a situation where the rest of the offense and the team is good enough to compete. And I spoke to a couple of guys here saying that you don't want to be in a position where you have to call 45 pass plays a game. You don't want to be in a position where if Ward doesn't put up 30 every week, you've got no chance to win. You don't want to be in that position because when you start getting in that position with a young quarterback, it's just too much for him to handle. You don't want to be in a position where it's 3rd and 8 on every series. Those are just really hard downs to convert. So for a young quarterback, while you're teaching him how to play and while you're giving him more and more theoretically every single week, depending on who your opponent is, you want to have enough team that it's not all on him because that's a hard deal in this league. I mean, we didn't get to this with Coach Callahan, but I've spoken to a lot of coaches who have basically told me that even though young quarterbacks can have success, and we've seen that in the league, if you're talking about really understanding an entire offense and then understanding the defenses that are presented to them, that it's a 3-year process. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be successful, to some degree, but you're also successful because of a lot of other factors. I mean, you look at a team like the Eagles that won the Super Bowl, they were just a really good team. There's all,
just a better overall team, top to bottom.
They're a better. I mean, there were games that Jalen Hurts had, threw 21 balls. I mean, and he's a veteran quarterback. So you want, I'm not saying the Titans are going to be the Eagles, but you want to be in a situation where maybe you can have a couple of games where, Cam Ward can go 15 for 24 for 170 yards and you can win a game. You want to be in that kind of situation.
Well, Greg, I mean, they did that so well with Tannehill and Henry, obviously.
Right.
A different kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
But they didn't need Tannehill to box score stuff.
Right. I mean, every
Essentially,
once in
they
a while
just
you
needed
do, depending
efficiency.
on a game. You know,
Efficiency.
there's a couple games every year where, hey, it plays out that your quarterback's got to do that. And it's fine if that's 3 games a year. But you don't want to feel like every single week, if Cam Ward doesn't go 30 for 40 for 350, you got no chance. Because it's not going to happen that way.
Let me get one more for Greg Cosell here at the Install Live. Who you got, Rich?
We got Nick from Charlotte.
Nick from Charlotte.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Nick.
It's kind of along the same lines, but with Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury last year, they kind of hit the ground running there,
Yep.
and he was lights out pretty early. Is there any takeaways that Callahan can use within his scheme there? They just made things easy for him, got him in rhythm, that kind of thing.
Well, I think they're different quarterbacks because the one thing you have with Jane Daniels that Cam Ward does not have is just the ability to have a quarterback design run game where he can be explosive. And that's the difference. And a lot of coaches, like the fact that, hey, a quarterback can give you that because the reason that that's so important is it changes the way defenses have to play. See, Ward can move, but and as we saw, he can make plays outside of structure. But Ward's not necessarily going to run the zone read for 40 yards. That's not going to happen. He's not that guy. And the reason that Daniels, and you see it with the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, the reason that can be important is it changes the way the defense has to play, and it makes defenses, particularly on normal down and distance situations, obviously 3rd and 9 is a whole different ballgame, but in normal down and distance, the defense has to be more. They have to account for that, and therefore they become more predictable. Ultimately, what you want to do, because football is a game of probability and tendency, you want to feel that you're attacking tendencies. That's how you go about preparing. When you study a defense, you study, okay, on 1st and 10, they're likely to play these 2 coverages. Hey, when you get to 3rd and 9, you know what? They're likely to show these 3 or 4 blitz concepts. You're trying to. That's what the game is. It's all tendency and probability. So, in normal down and distance situations, a Daniels, for instance, gives you that run game element that changes defenses. So it's a little different than what Cam Ward is.
Did you have a good time?
Oh, this is awesome. Yeah, this is great.
You guys have a good time? Yeah. You coming back next year? Come on. We had so much fun hanging out with y'all tonight. Thank you guys so much for being in the house. Thanks to the great sponsors. Thanks to the Analog. Make sure you're taking care of the bartenders in the back who've been hooking y'all up all night long. I need a cocktail, Greg.
You do?
I do. I'll get you a ginger ale. You and I have a cocktail after this. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We so appreciate you. We'll see you next year. Have a great football season. This has been the Install Live with that man, Greg Cosell. One more time for Greg.